answer to this question is less of how do we attract liquidity, but more of how do we make use of the liquidity that we already have. So to start with, the foundation, the fundamental foundation of any DeFi ecosystem is usually the liquid staked assets, right? These liquid staked assets are used in lending, they're used in DEXs, they're used all across the ecosystem. They are as ubiquitous as stablecoins themselves. They're in fact, like you could see them as like the stablecoins of the ecosystem in a sense. And up until now, we've not seen the proliferation of liquid stake assets in the Polkadot ecosystem, right? Ethereum notably has around 30% of all its staking assets liquid staked. So these assets are liquid and they're used in DeFi. Polkadot is much less than that, around 1 to 2%. And I think the issue with this has always been like, okay, just because of the parachain model, essentially the liquid staking protocol was a parachain, and I guess the stakers didn't want to give up all that liquidity to a parachain that essentially the parachain is now holding more assets than the value of the parachain token itself, right? Especially when you consider parachain governance. But now with Hub, I think we can start to see high penetration of liquid staking because the governance of Hub is the governance of Polkadot, right? So there's no relinquishing of the assets to a third-party parachain. And so I think fundamentally, until we see this high penetration of liquid staked assets, which then make their way into things like lending, things like DEXs, and the like, it's going to be very difficult to so-called attract liquidity, right? Like to attract liquidity from outside, because people who are coming in are not going to come into an empty party, right? They want to see that there's already a party happening and there's already assets and there's demand for assets and there's applications that are using all these different assets before they then bring their own external liquidity. So this is my take on the so-called liquidity problem. I don't think it's a chicken and egg problem at all. I think it's like, we just have to utilize what we already have to the max. And then once we exceed that, then there will be like actual demand for external liquidity.